Without further ado, I would like to turn this over to Mashum. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Indra. Thank you, Sarah, for ASL interpretation. And thank you, rest of the team. And a very special thanks to those of you who have taken time during this very challenging time of so many cascading crises to, I hope, find in this webinar on mindfulness meditation for people with disabilities another tool for you to help with stress reduction, increased concentration, and the ability to bring ourselves into the present moment in order to ground ourselves, to center and calm ourselves. And as persons with disabilities, mindfulness practice, mindfulness meditation can help us to more clearly assess what resources are available to us in the present moment so that we can move towards getting our needs met in the many challenging situations where access is usually not perfect for our needs. In addition, mindfulness meditation can increase a felt sense of connection to ourselves, connection to our resources, connection to our communities, in order to decrease a sense of isolation, of loneliness, and of anxiety. It is not a cure-all, it's another tool, and I hope it will be one helpful to you. To take a step back, once again, my name is Mushim. That's a Buddhist name in the Korean lineage. I myself am of Japanese descent. My grandparents came from Japan. I was born and grew up in Ohio in the United States. And although you can't see it on Zoom, I'm around 5 feet tall. I have white hair, kind of on top of my, poofed up on top of my head, and glasses. And I'm wearing a saffron colored tunic with Buddhist beads around my neck. And you can, for people who can see, you can see there are these straps of a dark brown cloth bib that is a Buddhist garment signifying that I've taken Buddhist vows and ethical guidelines called precepts. As Indra said, I self-identify as a person with disabilities, and so I'm happy to be joining with you, my community, for this time. I'd like you now to feel invited to drop down with me into simple, non-judgmental, non-judging awareness. So that's a different state of mind for most of us. And I'll be explaining more as we go along. Mindfulness meditation requires us to go in the direction of being both relaxed on one hand and alert on the other hand. This is a state of body, mind, in which it's never perfect. We're trying deliberately to both relax ourselves and increase a sense of alertness. alertness to what? I'll be talking about that in a moment. So this is not hypnotherapy. It's not meant to be something soothing where then we drowse off and go to sleep. If you are sleep deprived and exhausted, I always say, take a nap if you can. And this is a meditation technique which requires us to be awake and conscious. So once again, the invitation is to just relax. Just if it works for you, let's take a deep breath. Breathing in, breathing out. Let those shoulders down if you can. Once again, breathing in, big breath and out. We can't hear you. So this is a webinar. So if you like, make a sound as you breathe out, a sighing sound. And you can feel that in your body. Breathing in and out. And I'd like to invite you now to make a light mental note, again, without judgment. I'm not fishing for any particular result. Mindfulness observes and notices your experience in this moment, my experience for me. It does not judge. So we're cultivating this talent to say, my experience in the present moment is, and now the next invitation is to be as simple as possible. I have a virtual background for those of you who can see. That is a beautiful photograph of a gallery with Buddhist figures in the Asian Art Museum. That having been said, I am sitting in my apartment in Oakland, California, in the United States, on Lisjan, Lisjan, Ohlone, Ohlone land. And if you could see my apartment, you would see that it just looks like a very ordinary space. It's small. There are books and there's some clothing around. I live very simply. And what I want to tell you is mindfulness meditation is not a mysterious or it doesn't need to be taken in any religious sense. It is a tool that is useful for everyone of all ages. I have taught many children, young children, mindfulness. And so I hope there is something here for you. So I invite you to just notice right now what your mood is without judgment. So on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being just the worst day of your life, which I hope is not today, and 10 being the best day of your life, which is a little improbable, possible. Most of us are going to be between 1 worst day of life, 10 best day of life, and simply make a light mental note, or if you like, if you have paper and pen, jot it down or make a note on your smartphone of what that number is. And then from time to time, I invite you to check in with yourself and ask the same question. What's my mood? How do I feel on a scale of 1 to 10? Mindfulness practice helps to cultivate this constant feedback loop. It cultivates a feedback loop in which we keep checking in with ourselves to see what activities, what thoughts are helpful to us and what activities and thoughts depress our mood or make us feel more confused and less able to deal with our everyday life. It is a self-help, self-reliance tool. So before we get started on some mindfulness meditation practice, and you will have the opportunity closer to the end, we'll have around 15 minutes for your questions. And also you can, if you don't get your question answered or you don't think of your question until later, please feel free to contact us at eastbaymeditation.org. We're in Oakland and I'm on staff. I will answer your question. I will be the person to get your question through contact us at East Bay Meditation Center. We are a diversity and social justice centered urban meditation center. Now, the attitude towards mindfulness meditation is very important. And before I say a few words about that, I also want to note, especially since this is sponsored by the Asian Art Museum of San Francisco, I myself am Asian American. I'm also a Buddhist practitioner, that this practice of mindfulness, mindfulness is a word in English, mindfulness meditation is a technique. There are many meditation techniques, hundreds, I'm sure, from many different global faith traditions, as well as non-spiritual techniques of meditation for relaxation, peak performance, and so on. So this is a specific meditation technique that comes to us from Asia and was said to be one of around 40 meditation techniques taught by the historical Buddha in what is now India, at least 2,600 years ago. Mindfulness meditation is exactly the same thing as insight meditation, is exactly the same thing as in Buddhism, what is called vipassana. And I will spell that. Vipassana. And you see it in the chat as well if you're a seeing person. So those are 3 words for the same meditative technique. If you're a seeing person, you see in back of me a seated figure representing the historical teacher, the Buddha Shakyamuni. And on my other side, you see, if you can see, a beautiful standing, gorgeous standing Buddha figure. This can help to indicate to us that meditation and mindfulness meditation can be practiced anytime, anywhere, in any of what are called the 4 positions of the human body in Buddhism. Those 4 positions are seated, standing, lying down, and walking or moving through space. For those of us in wheelchairs and scooters, that means rolling along. Mindfulness meditation can be practiced in any of the 4, and should be practiced in any of the 4 postures, because we need to be aware of our bodies and our minds throughout our waking time. Okay, so let's begin. Once again, The attitude that we bring to mindfulness practice is, I think, what is most important. So I'll ask you if you would like to repeat after me. You might say it aloud if you feel comfortable doing so. We can't hear you. You might feel recite aloud after me, or make the ASL signs for 3 key words. And those words are notice, observe, kindness. Once again, in mindfulness meditation, we are noticing and observing with kindness to ourself. Kindness to ourself. This is non-judgmental observation. Because in order to help ourselves, we first need to understand clearly what our mental, physical, emotional state is. When I say notice, observe, we may well ask, what are we noticing and observing? Because you can practice with your eyes closed, as long as you're safe, or gently open, and we're not really looking at anything. It's if we feel safer, and to let some light in, if that helps us to feel safe. We're not looking around in mindfulness meditation. When you practice mindfulness as you're out in the world, please do, if you're a seeing person, look around. If you're a hearing person, listen for sounds on the street. Say, the object, once again, is for us to be safe in order to reach our goals in what is currently in this moment in our lives. So what are we noticing and observing with kindness to ourselves? Classically, in this Buddhist technique, we are noticing physical sensations in a simple way. Next, we're noticing that thinking is happening without chasing those thoughts, without attaching to any stories. We just notice, my brain is producing thoughts. We notice emotions are arising. And again, for the moment, please let go of the stories attached to them. So we might notice, sadness is arising. Oh, joy is arising. We're noticing our own physical, mental, emotional state in order to gain insight. Another word for mindfulness meditation is insight meditation, in order to gain insight into how we can help ourselves to have the best quality of life possible to us, to live with resilience, with adaptation, with creativity, and with a grounded, stable mind, at least to the extent possible in this moment. It's never perfect. So if you like, let us begin. And we have started late, so apologies. And I want you to know also that you can learn this technique. There are many YouTube videos. There's all kinds of free resource. So just relax. And if you like, close your eyes gently or keep them open a little bit to let in some light from the room if you can see light. And notice and observe what helps to make you feel safer, calmer, and more grounded and centered. You might open and close your eyes, experiment just gently, and then settle on one or the other. So we're now doing mindfulness meditation in a stationary posture. You may be seated on a chair. Some of you may be sitting cross-legged on the floor, perhaps using meditation cushions. You may be lying down if you have a spinal injury, chronic fatigue, or chronic illness. No problem whatsoever. And walking meditation or movement meditation is applying some of these principles into the body in movement. And we don't have time for that today. However, there are, again, are many tutorials available for free. So mindfulness meditation in a stationary posture, the eyes may be gently closed, open a little bit. And if you like, begin by taking a few deep, calming breaths. This does not work for everyone. So if it makes you feel uncomfortable emotionally or psychologically or physically, don't do it. Allow the breath to be natural. And in this meditation, we're moving towards allowing the breath to be exactly as it is. If you are a hearing person, you might take a moment to listen to sounds and notice and observe with kindness toward yourself that as long as you're safe enough, you don't need to do anything about these sounds. They come and go, increase or decrease in volume. They might be pleasant. They might be unpleasant or irritating. They might be neutral. And now, please feel invited to notice, observe with kindness to yourself any physical sensations that are comfortable enough for you to notice arising in your body, in your awareness of your body. Can you notice sensations of warmth, coolness, tingling, numbness, heaviness, lightness? Can you notice physical sensations of expansion, contraction? These are movements in the body as breathing occurs. If the answer is no, there's no problem from the point of view of mindfulness meditation. We simply notice, can't experience those physical sensations. notice and observe. It's actually quite normal. Many people don't feel the sensations of breath in the body. Not a problem. What do you feel? Examples might be tingling, palm, left hand. Slight coolness, back of neck. Pressure, contact between buttocks or bottom of body and chair seat or meditation cushion. What are you noticing and observing this moment in physical sensations, very simply noticed, arising in your body? As with sounds, for physical sensations, you might like to make a very light mental observation. This physical sensation is pleasant. It has pleasure in it. This physical sensation is unpleasant. It feels uncomfortable to me, all the way up to what we might call pain, which means extreme discomfort. We might notice some physical sensations we experience as neutral. Notice and observe with kindness. What do you experience? Allow the breath to be natural. It might be short, medium, or long, rough or smooth. Notice, observe with kindness. In everyday life, I invite you to notice and observe the breath if accessible to you, and particularly try to notice when it changes. Anxiety is often accompanied by short, shallow breaths from the upper part of the chest. So you can see, if you notice that, you can, if you like, deliberately take a few long, slow, deep breaths and then assess whether you feel a little bit calmer. Once again, you're noticing and observing physical sensations. That's the basis. You might notice that many thoughts arise, planning, remembering. That means speculating about the future or telling ourselves stories from the past. And that is natural. In mindfulness meditation, we're deliberately taking a break from that and saying, what am I observing exactly now? After all, the past is gone. The future is not yet here. And as some Buddhist teachers say, that's why the present is a gift. So if you can, let go of the stories, just let them flow by, and keep returning to noticing physical sensations. And if it works for you, you might become aware of the sensations of breathing in a natural way and breathing out in a natural way. Breathing in, we might notice that the abdomen and chest tend to expand. Breathing out, we might notice that the chest and abdomen gently fall, gently subside. So it's a very gentle, very gentle ocean-like movement, rising, breathing in, falling, breathing out. Rising and falling. Or you might notice sensations of breath in your nostrils, breathing in, often a sensation of slight coolness. Breathing out, the air has been warmed by our bodies, a different sensation. See what's true for you. So I hope you can see this technique is very empowering. As persons with disabilities, we usually need to learn to advocate for ourselves and hopefully to also find allies who will help to advocate for all people with all disabilities. In this moment, mindfulness can help us to empower ourselves to know clearly what is happening in our own bodies. And if you practice this technique more, mindfulness can also be applied to thinking and thoughts in order to understand which thoughts help us and which thoughts do not help us. This isn't about fantasy or magical thinking. It's about seeing that realistic, complete thoughts can help us to make wise choices about how we can help ourselves to, once again, attain our goals and have the best quality of life possible in the current circumstances. So I will end with just a very brief nod to loving kindness meditation. This is not mindfulness. It's very popular. And this is using phrases that we repeat silently or aloud to extend goodwill and loving kindness to ourselves and outward to others. These are traditional phrases. May I be safe and protected from harm. May I be happy. May I be peaceful. May I enjoy well-being as much as possible. May I live today with more joy. May I live with more ease. And we extend these well wishes outward toward all beings, all living beings. May all beings be well. May all beings be happy. I'll end by inviting the bell of mindfulness 3 times. And then we'll have just a few moments for your questions. Thank you so much. Again, our apologies for starting a bit late. And we do have some time for questions. And Indra from the Asian Art Museum of San Francisco will curate those questions.
Ah, thank you so much for that. I needed that. It's a very stressful week for many of us, if not all of us. If anyone has questions, please feel free to put them in the Q&A or the chat box or raise your hand. And you can do that by going next to your name and there's a little raise hand. And if we don't have questions, it may mean that you've just answered everything for us. Oh, not everything in the world, but just everything for the session. Maybe I'll just give it a moment. And thank you, Sarah. Thank you. It's wonderful interpretation. Oh, I have a question. Is there a special technique for meditating in fear or with fear, I guess?
Thank you. Yes, there are. And so mindfulness meditation can help us to break down what we mean by the word fear. All of these words like fear, anger, joy, those words are concepts and can mean many different things to many different people. Therefore, for you in this moment, with the word fear, from the point of view of mindfulness, one might ask, what are my physical sensations? And what is the nature of my thoughts? So you can see we're going to give ourselves more information, and then we can better help ourselves. Is this fear of something that is very reality-based, such as for many people, I can't pay my rent for the next month. I have to figure something out. I'm so anxious. And then we can try to calm ourselves down and say, what are my resources? Can I contact a tenant rights association? We have one in Oakland, I believe. And you might have one where you are. So we can assess our resources when we calm ourselves down. If it's something about the future that is impacting us now, we might notice we feel fearful or nervous, anxious, agitated. So you hear those are different words, and they indicate actually different physical and emotional states on a spectrum. Is this a small amount of fear? Is this all the way up to, I think I'm going to have a panic attack? So I need to know what my resources are. So this is a small example. Mindfulness can help us to notice and assess, then help ourselves. Great question.
Thank you for that. Another question we have, this person thanks you as well and asks, can you talk about what drew you to this type of meditation as a person with a disability as opposed to other types of meditation?
Yeah, thank you. I actually began meditating in the Zen, Zen Buddhist tradition in 1982, before I identified as a person with a disability. I have multiple chemical sensitivities and also reduced vision. And so I switched my technique of meditation from Zen meditation to mindfulness meditation around starting around 20 years ago. I would say I began to slowly switch, or maybe do kind of a mashup of the two, to be frank. And mindfulness has helped me to assess if I've been exposed to a chemical fragrance or a chemical, such as hand sanitizer, scented hand sanitizer at my bank, when I'm going to be having respiratory distress and cognitive disorientation that accompanies my reaction to these chemicals, then I have to be very careful about driving or figuring out how I can get help. So I did start meditation before I identified with disabilities.
Thank you for that. Are you a priest in any of the in the traditions, Zen or Vipassana?
Thank you for that question. So I'm just going to raise this ceremonial or Buddhist bib I said that I was wearing. This is Korean. It's made of pieces of brown cloth stitched together, and it represents the patched robe of the Buddha, and traditionally of monastics who wouldn't just get new outfits if their clothing wore out. They would usually try to repair everything and also stitch pieces of old cloth together to make their robes, signifying the vow of poverty. I have been a Buddhist monastic living under a full vow of poverty between the years of 1983 and 1987. 8, and then in 1989, I gave birth to my son, my only child, and I began a very slow return out of this vow of poverty back into lay life. So I do not currently hold any formal ordination as a priest. At East Bay Meditation Center, we're all lay, non-priest ordained Buddhist teachers and leaders. I have received, as I said, Buddhist vows and precepts, sometimes called lay ordination at places like San Francisco Zen Center. However, that does not indicate that we are priests. We're lay people. So I live with ordinary people, and I am a very ordinary person. Sometimes I will state, because I do act as a clergy person, that I am Buddhist clergy, as a lay clergy person.
Oops, sorry, I was muted. Thank you for that answer. This is a great question. It might be our last question. This is a thank you, Mushim, from Ajit, who loves thinking of mindfulness as a way to self-advocate. Ajit teaches at Creativity Explored, who we just adore. They're art studios for people with disabilities. It's a question he often asks: how to cultivate self-advocacy among our artists. Could you speak a little about this, knowing yourself and your needs? This clarity is so important. Some initial steps for this, for self-advocacy.
Yes, thank you. That is such an important matter. And it's often been pointed out that the reason why businesses and organizations need to practice access and need to hire people with disabilities, it's because people with disabilities are, by necessity, creative and see things from a different point of view than the dominant society. Therefore, creativity is empowering. Creativity is a tool that we need to employ in our everyday lives, and we do not need to think of ourselves as artists. Creativity is part of our birthright as human beings. If you give most children art supplies, crayons, paints, and even if you don't give it to them, they'll mess around with their food. That's how we all started out, unless we were wounded or damaged by our caretakers. So mindfulness meditation helps us to reclaim that. And when we reclaim that creativity, we're able to see more choices, we're able to connect to more resources, and then we're able to better, more clearly advocate, look around and say, okay, this is possible, this is not possible. For what is possible, here's how you can meet my needs. Please speak more slowly. Please make sure there are wheelchair and scooter accessible corridors and aisles that are free from backpacks or furniture or whatever. I know you can do that. Please make that happen, not just for me. You're not doing it out of pity for me as a disabled person. You're doing it because it's the right thing to do to make a society more accessible for all. This is for the benefit of everyone. And we might consider in many disabilities that these are conditions which can occur to anyone at any time. For those who maybe consider themselves non-disabled, we might call them TABs, temporarily able-bodied, and of course their mental disabilities, temporarily, emphasizing that all of this could change in a moment, in a few years, at any time. Therefore, our goal is universal access in order for facilities, in order for education, in order for worship, for everything in our society to be more inclusive of all people.
That was beautiful. Wow. Inspiring, really inspiring. Thank you for that question. Just want everyone to know that the Asian Art Museum is continuing to do our work to make the museum more and more and more accessible to everyone. It's a long path that we're embracing fully, and we're excited about that path. So thank you all for attending today. And I want to a deep bow of gratitude to both Mushim and to Sarah. The interpretation was brilliant, and this instruction was really, really special and exemplary. So thank you. You were both incredible. Thank you all to everyone, and we hope to see you again.